Hey y'all, welcome back to this week's episode of AMA Friday with Amy Miller, Recruiting in Yoga Pants. So this week we are kicking off our next little mini series all about the ATS. I know what you're thinking. Has she not talked about this enough? Stop! I'm tired of talking about it too, but y'all keep saying crazy stuff on the internet and I have to refute it, so here we are. But in all seriousness, this first video is going to be a bit of an overview starting point to kick off this little series. I'm going to give you a high level, this is what an ATS does. And in the coming weeks, we're going to have probably 3 to 4 videos after this that go into more specific just detail around each of those topics. So let's start with just generally speaking, what does an ATS do? First of all, I know I've got like a dozen videos on the ATS. I have an entire playlist about the ATS. I focused a lot on what the ATS does not do. I still think there's some value in those videos. Please go check them out if you're so inclined. But this one will hopefully accompany those videos. And again, just give you overview followed by some specific breakdowns of what actually happens inside these systems. All right, so for those that are not familiar, an ATS is an applicant tracking system. This is a very common bit of software that is used pretty universally. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've worked at very small companies that used Outlook and Excel as their system to track applicants. Some are more complex than others. Some have lots of bells and whistles. Some do not. Some are homegrown. Some are off the shelf. All of them typically can be configured to fit whatever the company can afford and what they've decided is important for them. So generally speaking, how they work. Let's dig in. So we start usually with headcount management. So this can be, sometimes it's a standalone system. Sometimes like finance will have their own system and all of the headcount lives within a particular tool. Sometimes it's a spreadsheet. It depends on the company. But every position normally will have like a unique identifier. At Microsoft, we call these PCNs or position control numbers. So all of this headcount is accounted for. All of these employees, current and future, are accounted for. So the way that we will manage headcount, a manager, let's say, has a team of 10. And they currently have 7 employees. That means that they're going to have 3 open positions that they can decide how to use. They might want to open a rec, create a new role, go hire somebody. They may want to sit on it for a bit. Just depends. They get to decide how to do that. But their total headcount is 10 in this example. And they're going to have a gap of 3. Maybe they're going to open 3 roles. Oh boy, somebody resigned. Now we're opening a 4th position as a backfill, right? As an example, we'll do a deeper dive into this soon, but basically headcount management lives here. From headcount management, we'll take that data and we'll create open roles. We log into our ATS, we grab one of those available headcounts, and we create a job description. We create an approval chain that goes with that. We do all the things, coming up in a future video, to enable us to post this role. So now it's gone through all those process steps that you're going to learn about soon. And we're now accepting applications. So this is the part of the process. You are here. You are this little tiny dot in this big old spectrum that I'm about to write for you, applying to a job. You don't see all this. You don't see what's coming, but a lot of us get super fixated on this. That's why I'm talking through this over the next few weeks, because I really want to put you at ease as to why an ATS exists, what the purpose is, what we do in it, and how it really does benefit you. This actually makes our lives easier if we're using it correctly, and of course, if our companies have invested in a good one that gives us the resources that we need. So jobs now created. Now we're getting our, A and C, applicants and candidates. They are different. Applicants have applied directly. Candidates are people we've gone out and found. Applicants can become candidates when we decide that you're under consideration for our role. There's a video about that somewhere, so go check it out if you'd like. But so now we're actually taking in those resumes, we're making those next steps. So now there's a decision that happens. Do we move them forward or not? So the next step here is usually interviews. So this is where we would maybe send out assessments. Maybe there's pre-work that we're looking for, an assessment or a form to fill out or some other kind of verification that needs to happen. There's also what we would call a recruiter phone screen. So where recruiters may be getting on the phone with you and doing a deep dive into your specific experience, background, and so on. All of that's tracked here. And really good ATSs might even have a scheduling function. I love a good automated scheduler. I actually have a bunch of links that I can send people for different reasons, like, oh, it's a 15-minute, outcome call. Here's how your interview went. Oh, let's deep dive into your offer details. Oh, here's an initial introductory call with me or a hiring manager. So I have this automated feature in my ATS where I can just drop that link into someone's inbox. They can go find a time that's right for them. Shows up on my Outlook calendar. Love it. Notes are all tracked in the ATS. Oh, notes in the ATS. Let's talk about that. So all of this stuff that's happening here gets documented. Oh, honey, we write down everything. There are some systems, we'll get into this in a couple weeks, that actually track your emails, and every email that you send me shows up in your candidate record. That made for some awkward moments at Google, let me tell you. But that definitely can happen depending on the system. So we'll do a deeper dive into that in a couple of weeks. But we document everything, right? The other thing that happens here, so this could be interview feedback, this could be conversations, this could be email exchanges, assessment, scores, all those things. We also then are able to make offers. Offer letters are generated in the ATS. I tell y'all, I've said this before a million times, you want to be in the ATS because you want to follow this workflow. It's kind of like Candyland, right? Keep moving those spaces until you get an offer. I will create your offer in the ATS. It will go through the approval process in the ATS, and I will hit a button in the ATS that sends that offer to your inbox. Very important part of our workflow here. Obviously, we then have whatever, disposition, if you've turned the offer down, if we're negotiating the offer, those kinds of things can happen as well. But let's say, perfect world, you accept. Now we're making you an employee. So there are onboarding steps that can happen here. There's mandatory documents that can be signed and verified electronically that feeds into the ATS. All that good stuff is happening here. So hopefully this helps give you, again, a very generic overview of how most systems are used. We will also, in addition to covering all of this, we'll also talk about some sidebar stuff like reporting. I live and die by data. I need to be able to prove, hey, this was effective. Hey, this wasn't. Hey, you missed an SLA here. Hey, I dropped the ball there. I got to go pick it up, right? So there's a lot that the ATS can do, not only from an automation perspective, which we'll discuss, but also just an accountability perspective. I will get emails, and my boss may also get those emails if I've dropped the ball, if I have not reviewed all of my applicants in a timely manner, if I have not dispositioned someone after an interview within the SLA. Like, there's a lot of different things that can be developed internally, depending on the ATS, to help us stay accountable. That, my friends, is the benefit to job seekers. If the system is set up right, it saves tons of time and frustration for you. More on that in the coming weeks, so come on back next week.